take a couple calls here. We're going to go to JT, Rod, David, Scott, and more. 888-201-2244. And then about 40 after, I'm going to play this piece out of CNN, which is kind of fair, actually. It's about Skull and Bones. It doesn't really go off the deep end. It's 5 minutes long, and it admits that there is evidence out there that Prescott Bush and a couple of his Skull and Bones cohorts did get Geronimo's skull and do have it in the tomb over at Yale University. And the tomb, of course, has padlocks all over it. It is a death cult, unfortunately. I have the video where the initiation ceremony is people totally strewn out naked, getting mock sacrificed as they worship Satan. Wish it weren't the case, but happens to be the case. All right, JT in Illinois, you're on the air. Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
Jason, good show.
Thank you.
Wanted to let you know you did such a great job covering what was going on there in Pittsburgh at the G20. I tell you, there's nothing that's gotten me has ever gotten me so angry to see those thugs running around the city. You heard any updates on what's going on as far as I know last week they had the coverage of the Citizens Board and all that. Any idea what's going on?
I'm not sure what you're talking about. Are you talking about now in Pittsburgh, or?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I have not heard much about that. I know that, Luke Rudowski being arrested, he was forced to plea during his trial, and his lawyer worked something out where he didn't have to go there and he had to go down to a lesser charge. I'm not sure what happened with Rob Dew, because he eventually did get charged, even though on the scene he was detained with others in like a mass roundup where they took everybody's fingerprints and didn't charge them on the spot, but then called them up later and said they were being charged with something. So I'm not quite sure on that update. Maybe if somebody could, email me some information over at the Facebook.com/The Infowarrior or MySpace.com/Jason Bermas, I can check it out. You got anything else, JT?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Cameras were the ideal weapon out there in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you're looking at, Jesse Ventura, like he was talking about them having a chance to be able to affect people's cameras. I mean, I could just see if in future big protests and rallies and such, they'd love to be able to down people's cameras on the spot.
Well, I think they can already do it. The problem with that is, here's the problem why you don't see more of that now. With EMP-type weapons and sound devices, I'm sure that is possible. But they always have to put a good face and a spin on it. So, yeah, Jason Bermas is out there in front of the riot police, and he has a camera, and he's filming the sound weapons and the dogs and the riot police gearing up to put the gas masks on. But the mainstream media is there, too. And they know that they're going to spin it in their favor, so they have to have the cameras there for their propaganda. And that's why I don't think we're going to see that kind of weaponry, at least not in the next 2 to 5 years. Maybe in the next 5 to 10, you're going to see that as a more prevalent form of technology, especially as phones get better and video cameras get smaller. Again, you can take your iPhone out right now and you can start filming. I mean, they filmed that kid getting beaten to death in Chicago on an iPhone. So as we get more technology in the hands of the general populace, they will have to find a way to curb and control that. I just don't see it happening right this minute because they haven't figured out a way to go after the citizen but leave the, government journalist alone. I thank you for the call, JT. Let's go to Rod in Kentucky. Rod, you're on the line.
Hey, Jason. Thanks for taking my call. Listen, I'm the guy that works at the Outback that got to meet the demolition control guys.
Yes, the Lazo family. I remember that.
Yeah, how interesting. Man, I tell you how much I appreciate Alex. I'm waking up down here in Kentucky using your video. I'm saving my money right now to get to all the Republic and get it handed out. There's a lot of people down here, man. I mean, people think because we're from the South, live in the country, we're stupid. Well, it ain't like that, and they're waking up. One of the main reasons I called you today is I wanted to, me as a Christian, I have found some of the hardest people to touch are the actual pastors and Christians. They don't, it's almost like they don't believe their own Bible and the own things they preach, that this thing is coming to fruition, and it's all written out before, but by golly, they don't want to hear it.
Well, I have to listen. I'm not a very religious person myself. I keep it pretty secular. I grew up Christian. I know exactly what you're talking about. And that's why when I talk to somebody who represents themselves as a pastor or a preacher, the first thing I do is I say, well, at least, under the last administration, I would say, well, do you believe that George Bush is a Christian? And they'll look at me kind of funny for a second, and they'll say, well, I do believe that he really thinks he's doing the best thing and that he has a strong faith in God. And then I ask them, well, you know about Skull and Bones or the Bohemian Grove? Oh, no, what's that? And then I start to tell them, and they don't want to believe it. I've had people come up to me and try to recruit me through the church, and I'm like, well, do you support these people and their actions? Well, those Muslims want to declare jihad on America. I don't know what else we can do. See, they're not into practicing what they preach, but I think a lot of that is based on ignorance because they just don't know. And I think that's why programs like this one will help to bridge that gap. I know we're a secular program, but we are trying to reach as many Christians, Muslims, Jews, New Agers, any kind of Hindus, anybody out there that is willing to listen to the message and understand that the people at the top, they do have a religion, but it isn't Christianity. It is literally occult earth worship. And, some people would say it's Luciferian, and I would say, hey, they do have a do as thou wilt attitude. And you know what? This is a great segue, Rod, to this next segment where they just come out and admit, oh, yeah, they drink fake blood out of skulls during their initiation rituals in Skull and Bones. So I thank you for the call, Rod, and I hope that this clip right here is a little bit more ammunition in the info war, my friend. So let's hit the clip.
We continue our special investigation of secret societies with a look into Yale University's Skull and Bones. You're about to learn what only a powerful few ever find out. What goes on at a club that's been shrouded in mystery for 177 years. What really happens behind the padlocked doors of this windowless building? The Tomb of Skull and Bones, Yale's oldest secret society. Its members include some of America's most powerful and privileged elite, all sworn to secrecy.
Skull and Bones' only purpose is to get its members into positions of prominence around the world so that they can elevate other members to similar positions. That's it.
Alexandra Robbins broke through the wall of silence to write Secrets of the Tomb, based on clandestine interviews with dozens of bonesmen. Only 15 Yaleys get picked each year. The society includes at least 3 U.S. presidents, Supreme Court justices, and too many senators and CEOs to name. In 2004, Bush versus Kerry was the first all-bonesman presidential election.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us? Not much, because it's a secret.
And it's that secrecy that has allowed conspiracy theories to run wild on campus.
It's great for the freshmen when they come in and they see it across from old campus and nobody really knows what goes on there.
There are people who think that they run the world and it's just a giant conspiracy.
If you haven't made $1 million by the time you hit 35 or something, they give you $1 million.
What I imagine is just like a dark room with a lot of people sitting around it in hooded capes.
No bonesman has ever publicly revealed the truth, but it's believed the 15 juniors are selected each spring based on a mix of family connections and their accomplishments.
Initiation is actually pretty silly. Members dress in costumes, skeleton costumes, devil costumes, other costumes. Somebody's dressed up as Elihu Yale. The initiates have to do things like drink fake blood out of a skull.
And share their deepest, darkest secrets.
One of the first activities they participate in is called connubial bliss, or the sexual history. During CB, as it's called, each member must spend an evening standing in front of the other 14 bonesmen and recount his or her entire sexual and romantic history.
Legend has it, true bonesmen have gone to even greater lengths to prove their loyalty. According to one such story, Prescott Bush, George W. Bush's grandfather, was part of a group that broke into the Oklahoma burial place of the Apache chief Geronimo and made off with his skull. Judith Schiff, an archivist at Yale's library, says there is some evidence to support the claim.
There happened to be a letter there amongst the students who were friends from a friend of Prescott Bush who said he and Prescott Bush had indeed stolen the skull of Geronimo.
While there is no independent information, Geronimo's grave was disturbed back in 1918. There are photos of skulls inside the Skull and Bones tomb.
If you saw some of the earlier photographs of the society, their annual picture was always taken around a table on which was at least one skull that they owned.
So what's the payoff for all the secrecy, all the elaborate rituals? Well, here's the thing. Skull and Bones has a reputation of taking care of its own, no matter the cost.
They will come to the aid of families if a man dies unexpectedly without money. They will assist the widow and the children.
Not only that, Schiff says, but they have their own private retreat, Deer Island, off the coast of New York, and a world of ready investors and political contacts in the highest echelons of American society.
Each member gets a catalog of the members of the society. It lists where they live, what they do, a little bit about their resume, how you can contact them.
But the biggest mystery of all, what exactly is the point? Setting aside all the legend and myth, what has kept this secret society alive for all these years? Good old-fashioned networking for the super elite. And for a little more on members
all right,
of
folks,
Skull and
there you
Bones,
have it. And that was a pretty fair piece. Now,